Join me in welcoming all these great people for this panel.
Thanks for coming, guys. As you mentioned, I've known Wes for a few years now through Mission Creek and some other stuff. I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves. The panel is Crushing It and Resting It, which essentially is the slow hustle philosophy behind the podcast and everything that I'm running. And it's just about how to manage the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and just kind of living a life worth living and enjoying the ride and the process of grinding, right? Because like we were talking earlier, it's 90% like really, really hard work and 10% like amazing fun, right? It's just managing all those things. And so we're gonna try to give you guys some practical tips on what's working and what's not, so that you can walk away with some ideas on how to manage, like he said, having many different irons in the fire. So we'll start at the end with Steve Schreiber.
Hello, Steve Schreiber. I have Ecolips. We manufacture organic lip balm. We made 7 million units a year, or last year, so now we're not huge, but we make a lot of little products. And they're sold in over 12,000 retail locations across the country. And I have Brewhemia, which is a coffee shop up in Cedar Rapids. And I just looked at our Yelp score, which is like everything for a restaurant. And 79 reviews and 4.5 stars, so it's working. All right. So check us out. Takes a lot of cups of coffee and lip balm to pay the bills. Let's see, we also own Ross Street Roaster, which is a coffee roaster out in Tama. We have an equity position there, so we're partnering. Thanks, Sarah, for the introduction like 6 months ago, and then that was cool. We bought them. And then I also have a building that I'm turning into an event space in Cedar Rapids. And I'm launching an electrical outlet product.
Couple of things. You got a couple of things you're working on.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
I'm Derek Balsley. I'm with my wife, Jessica Balsley. We only have one business. We're the founders of The Art of Education. The Art of Education is a blossoming graduate college for art teachers around the country. So we are currently a higher education institution. We serve over 3,000 graduate students each year with courses, and we're trying to sort of reinvent what it means to be a graduate college in the 21st century. And what we're trying to do is consider all the different ways that people learn, professionals learn once they've graduated. We are sort of fixated on the question of why is it that you go to a college for 4 years, graduate, get a diploma, and then promptly never talk to your college ever again?
Unless they want your money because of
Yeah.
alumni relations.
And so we're saying, you know, let's combine what a magazine does, let's combine what a blog does, what a podcast does, what videos do, what conferences do. Let's combine that with what a graduate college traditionally does and deliver that all as a complete, comprehensive learning system for life. So.
And background, I was an art teacher and Derek was in marketing, so we kind of joined our forces and we are 6 years old.
The company.
Yeah, the company.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Nikki.
I'm Nikki Henick, and I'm addicted to technology, so I'm not sure if I can talk about a work-life balance. No. But I founded Dollop Beauty. It's a craft beauty company, tailor-making beauty products for the modern-day woman. I launched in 2015, so I'm in my third year, and so I would still say that I'm a baby entrepreneur and business owner.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thanks, Nikki. Peter Alwood, Slow Hustle Podcast. Also have a couple of e-commerce companies. One is an automotive, 16 years old. So I'm kind of an old guy. And then I've got a 2-year-old mission-based snack food company. It's called Mission Meats. So thanks for the intros, you guys. So my first question is, you know, this series, ALT series, is, you know, it talks about the intersection of technology, where technology intersects with our lives. When you hear that statement, as it, you know, pertains to business, like what comes to mind? Technology intersecting with our business lives, and I'll start with Steve.
Sure. I mean, on a real tactical, granular level, you know, I can do anything on this phone now, so that's pretty awesome, right? And I know you and your RV travels and stuff, you can, but I really, we try to integrate technology. You really have no choice but to integrate it anymore. It's part of everything that we do. And even with Ecolips, we strive on making, we make small batches and it's handmade, but then eventually it gets into the production process that's run with technology, and it definitely helps provide consistency. Our point of sale systems at the cafe are all cloud-based, and always definitely looking for new ways to be more efficient, and it's typically a technological solution these days. So are we supposed to steer the questions around how it helps us personally?
No.
Okay, all right.
However you want, man,
All
you
right.
guys.
Yeah, so I think, sort of the benefits of technology are fairly clear to everyone. Wherever we look, wherever we do, technology is becoming a more pervasive part of our lives. But I think the biggest challenge is to sort of balance that out and make sure that the technology is strengthening your life, making you more of a free person, not less of a free person. So all of us probably look at our phones too much and browse Facebook too much. And so Jessica and I focus a lot or really put a lot of effort towards, especially because we run an online company, trying to, find opportunities to step back from that, or strategies on, could be from setting how you set your notifications to which apps you actually put on your phone, so you can be strategic about how it interrupts your life, because it's going to.
Yeah.
Which makes it really hard for us because we have, almost 40 team members all around the country and world that we are interacting with, and only 6 of them are in our location. So, questions will come in at night because that's when certain people are working, and it just makes it really difficult. And so maybe we'll get into more of that.
We will.
Okay.
We will. Yeah, thanks you guys. How about you?
So I feel like we wouldn't exist, my company wouldn't exist if it wasn't for tech. So I'm like in love with everything that we can do, that we can reach the consumer through our website, and we can do business in a new way, that I can talk to China on a messaging app. So, but I have had some moments where I'm like, is it running my life? That's why I said I'm addicted to technology. So it's kind of a full disclosure here that I'm going to process it through it with you guys. How do you balance that, right? Because we just do everything with technology, and it's on my phone, and it's in my car and in my bedroom, and it's everywhere, right? And so the only place that's still vacant of technology, and I shared this with you, is in my shower, and that is still my most productive place. For recreational thinking, right? So I thought about that, and it was after I heard Karl Lagerfeld. He's a fashion designer, one of the greatest fashion designers, and he said that he refuses to use technology. And of course, I think that's clear out there, but listening to why and where to keep it out of certain spaces, I found that interesting, because he said he didn't want a bell ringing him all the time like a slave being rang. So somebody's ringing. So I thought that was very interesting, and started to really look at that and measure that in my own life.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw this back at you guys as far as when it comes to technology and all of the things that it affords us to do. Like you mentioned the RV. I've been working from the sand, literally from the sand for a while, which is crazy, right? But with that hyper connection also comes a bunch of responsibility as far as how you let it in, because you can be connected anytime, anywhere, right? Like we're talking about. And so is there something that you guys believe about technology that others feel is insane? And so I'll share one that I have personally. Is I very, very rarely check email on my phone ever. And I shared that with a friend. I'm like, I think I'm just going to delete it. And they're like, what do you mean? That's ridiculous. You can't do that. I'm like, yeah, I can right here. I just disconnect and I don't have it anymore. So is there something, and I'll throw this out to any of you, is there something you guys believe about tech or any of the the hyperconnection that others would think is just completely insane or even asinine? Anyone?
we build our businesses all on data. I mean, our decisions are typically data-driven. So the great thing is that we can access all kinds of data, whether it's online sales or, you know, customer count or, you know, so I'll just use the coffee shop as an example. This is very simple, but like we'll have a few short days or a few bad sales days, and we'll look at our data and say, oh, well, we only had this many people. How was the weather? And what we found is there were a few times where we've made wrong assumptions based on the data, or we didn't use enough data or a long enough time frame. So it makes it too easy to make a mistake, a strategic mistake, because we have all that data. Yeah, so just being careful about how you use it.
So what do you do then? Do you then dig in and say intuitively, forget the data, intuitively wind this business down, and you can make more gut decisions that way, would you say?
Right, I think it's a matter that, then I want to use the data and then use the gut and then kind of merge it together. Yeah.
Cool.
I think one thing that I think about a lot that maybe may not be super common is every minute that you're spending on a device, try and figuring out how much of that is consumption-based versus how much of that is creation-based. And if I can spend my hours using a creative tool, writing something on a laptop, I feel that time is much more well spent than if it's consuming Facebook or consuming videos or whatever it is. And so it's sort of a good delineation between good technology and bad use of technology. And so it's just a good measuring stick, I think.
Based on that, I mean, do you guys have, any of you have a piece of wisdom or advice on how tech or lack of tech can help drive creativity? You said shower.
Showering.
Regularly.
No, I mean, for me personally, in creating products, I really believe in recreational thinking. And when I fill all of my experiences with input, I feel like I can't come to a place where I'm ever outputting. So I really have to be conscious of putting things away, like even just the radio in the car, because then my mind just goes to a song. It's habitual. It's like ingrained. And if I'm conscious of shutting off just even the radio, I can go into those recreational thinking parts that I'm missing throughout the day. And in the shower. So I just like, for me, it's like food. Just because it's available and there's like really good treats back there doesn't mean I have to eat it, right? And so that's how tech is for me. Like I have to make a conscious choice, and I do that. So kind of probably one of an extreme thing is that I'll go for months without watching television and then like at all, just because I feel addicted to it. So I haven't done that with my phone, but I do a day a week put my phone down and pretty much I pretty much don't check anything because I don't want to be addicted to it. And there's studies showing that we get a dopamine response from and a high. And I just in my own thoughts, I think about that, and I think about what's that mean that I'm getting a high every time I'm using technology, and then I'm going to just be chasing that high all the time, and I feel that. So just being conscious, putting the food away.
Kind of to piggyback off of that, to make more space for that recreational thinking. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they suggested, whenever you call someone, sometimes you call them and they answer and you say, "Is this a good time for you?" And that's a very courteous thing to do, but we don't ask that to ourselves. So instead of, if your phone's sitting on the counter and it's 6 p.m. and I'm feeding supper to my 2 young daughters, I might ask myself, okay, is this a good time for me to check this, to look at this? Because if I get an email that means a string of events is going to happen, it is not a good time that I can act on that or talk about it, but in the morning it would be fine, or later after they go to bed. And so asking ourselves that question, I think, is what really hit home for me, and I've been doing that since. So
I think it's also interesting, like how different devices can affect you in different ways. So for instance, I really enjoy having like a big screen when I'm doing a lot of work. So I actually purchased like a 38-inch monitor the other day. It's big. You can't see me at the desk.
You can't see me behind it.
But one thing that's really drawn a distinct line in the sand for me is when I sit at that desk, I'm in communication mode, I'm in management mode, I'm running the ship, but I'm not getting any creative work done. And so it's extremely important that more days than not, or at least half the days, I'm grabbing the laptop, disconnecting from the big screen, walking into the conference room or a community space, and working in a different way, working with my notebook and pencil. And so.
When we do product development, so product development is like everything in the lip balm world. Like we're always looking for the next delivery system, the next, the next flavor, the next formula, and we do it two ways. We use scan data from stores, and we look at all the data from in the United States on all the lip balm sales and what's performing and what's not, what size container, what price, and so we do this very formal process of product development based on the data, and we'll do it in the conference room. And we come up with some pretty good ideas. And, but we also will go jump, we have bikes at our office, and we'll jump on bikes and ride around and talk about new products. And I think it's, I haven't looked at that piece of data, but
That's
it's probably,
a good idea.
it's probably like half and half,
Steal that. Get on
Yeah,
bikes.
yeah,
Like-
you gotta get on a bike, get on a bike
You
sometimes.
can't really check your phone on a bike or
That's
you might
right.
crash.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
You know what I think the lesson here is too is like, you've got all these different examples, and it's like it's not those specific examples that you have to follow, but more so like paying attention to what works for you and where you have your best creative ideas and where you do not. And just like really paying attention to that, I think is what I'm hearing here, right? And so I always tell people, I'm like, where do all your good ideas come from? They come from being in the shower, which I shared with you as like shower, toilet, wherever it is, right? It's because you have some space, right, or some space for boredom, and as long as we have some of that free time, to have those creative ideas, and no matter what it is, if you've got to disconnect from this monitor that's the size of my big screen TV, or riding a bike or whatever it is, like just pay attention to where those are and allow more of that into your your day-to-day life.
And sometimes altering your state of mind, like with alcohol or drugs. I was out in LA 10 years ago.
I love where this is going, by the way.
And yeah, so we drank a little bit, we smoked a little weed, and then it was like 2 a.m, and we were playing with pieces of lip balm and putting them together, and we created this this lip balm with a carabiner clip on it, and nobody had done that yet. We launched it. It became our top selling product for the next 2 years, and it was like 2 a.m. Perfect. And we remembered it the next day. Yeah.
You writing this down?
I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go from there. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And so,
It was legal.
it's legal,
It was-
right? So you shared this carabiner idea. You guys, I mean, maybe if you want to share, like, when you've disconnected from the screen or shower moment, whatever it is that you feel like you had some of these breakthrough ideas, or a time where you're like, wow, I need more of this in my life. Do you guys have like a story you can share, like, from one of those experiences? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Well, I think every idea is always going to be like my next big idea, and then it's not. So there isn't one in particular, but I did. I was on the road for a little while, checking on stores that was carrying our products, and I think I went like 8 to 9 hours without the radio or checking my phone or talking to anybody. And I felt like I had reinvented my entire business out of that. And I didn't, but but I thought I did. But no, I think just I'm so happy with those circumstances when I do it. I just wish that I would do it more. But of course, like I said, I'm addicted. So I keep doing the technology thing and then wishing for a different result. So, but I'm happy when I do it.
As with most things, there's usually a contradictory story. So I think the idea for our business came from Jessica and I driving in a car. Just, she was upset that she couldn't find professional development for our teachers, or she couldn't find, when she had her master's, she wanted to teach just our teachers, and it just wasn't an opportunity out there. So sitting there talking in the car, going back and forth about why this doesn't exist was really the genesis of the art of education. But simultaneously, I think some of our best inspirations for features that we've added or improvements that we've made have come from browsing the internet, browsing what's super successful in other industries, what working really well, and saying, how do we tweak that and mold that for our particular audience, our particular lives? And so, to say that off is good and on is bad is way too simplifying, obviously.
I like
And
to-
you can get inspirations both ways.
Yeah, I like to call it going into airplane mode, because I have my best ideas on the airplane and I never buy the Wi-Fi because I don't want to have it. I get out a book or I get out a notebook. And so I had this idea when I was flying, like I had this great flight and I had all these new ideas and I got home and I'm like, why don't I just go into airplane mode in my everyday life? Just turn my phone onto airplane mode. And I wish I would do it more because I don't do it enough, but because it has an end. So this is just 2 hours, it's just 3 hours, just 1 hour, and then you turn it back on. And it's kind of just a way to think about it.
I found that doing something physically challenging, like climbing a mountain, not only just forces you into airplane mode, but it also makes daily challenges seem a lot easier when you've, run a marathon or, summited a big peak. So just that taking, getting away. The last time I had an adventure, I came back, had a lot of free time, just talking about reorganizing your business. And I came back and I was like, what would we do if, so Ecolips has been around 13 years, but I've been in the lip balm business for about 20 years. And what would I do if I bought my company? That was what I came back with. I'm like, I started saying, why are we doing things this way, that way, this way? And then came back and now we have a strategic initiative to look at everything within the company as if we just bought it. What would we change? Who would we keep? Who would we let go? Would we still do would we still use these processes? And it's really, we've been doing that for 3 months and we have created the most profit that we've ever created.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I always hate being on a panel with Shriver because he's like, after I climbed Everest, I was really, I'm kidding.
sorry. Jeez.
After I ran that long, no, you're
Right.
awesome. Totally inspirational.
That's a good point, though, as far as, reinventing your business. And we all know that, like most Fortune 500 companies that exist now, there's only like 20 of them that have existed, in 1920 that existed back then. And so, just companies are constantly cycling in and out of success, and the only companies that survive in the long run are the ones that consistently do that.
Yep.
And so maybe the technology connection there is that we sort of take for granted that, we're using our phone. I always use my phone, and therefore I'm going to keep using my phone. And so if you don't take a moment to sit back and question, is it smart to be using my phone right now? Is this the best thing I should be? If you're not questioning that, you're going to be on the steady downslope towards constant consumption, just watching and browsing your life away. And so the act of questioning it, the act of questioning yourself and the normal way you do business is a good thing to
Well,
do.
and I just like the idea of like doing like a quarterly evaluation of yourself, like personally, how things are going. Because you said steady down, like decline. Because I think that it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen right away or in a snap. It's very gradual, right? So your consumption of whether it's TV or your phone or whatever it is, it happens very gradually. And all of a sudden you find yourself in this place where you're addicted or you're just like you're not as effective or as efficient as you used to be. So if you do an evaluation on how things are going, you're like, wow, well, in the beginning of this, I was doing really well. And all of a sudden now I found myself in this trap or whatever it is. So doing that evaluation, I love the idea of if you bought yourself, right? Because then you can look at yourself very critically and say, okay, I have emotional ties to these products, and maybe they were a good idea 5 years ago and they're not now. Let's kill them, even though we've got all this invested into it.
2 last comments on phones specifically, and I'm going to, Nikki, sorry, but when I was
at Everest.
At base camp.
Madagascar. Sorry. I was in Madagascar, in a village that had no power, and everybody, the only way you can make money there is to sell plants, and at least in this particular region. And it was a 14-hour Jeep ride into this village, And we saw, it was amazing, the simplicity of life. However, they wouldn't sell a thing without a phone. So they couldn't charge their phone, but they used it to make sales. So they'd run down the street, a few miles and charge it in somebody else's village. But they were literally like wheeling and dealing on this phone in this really remote area. And then I also, while I was in Nepal, I was having lunch with a guy, and I'm like, why do you have two phones? And he was like, well, no, this one's for business and this one's for personal. I'm like, okay, that's kind of stupid, but for him it made total sense. Like he's just like, this is my business phone. After Nepalese people are pretty laid back, and he can put it away, and then he's just got his personal phone, and why not?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And so what would you guys say is not working in your life? Like you're addicted to technology right now, you say, right?
I think I processed through it, and
Yeah.
I no longer am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say is not working in regards to all of this stuff for you guys right now?
Like with my marriage?
No. You can go there if you want.
No, just kidding.
Just like when it comes to tech, or when it comes to your uses of technology personally, like what is not working for you? Is it an addiction to the dings and the chimes, or is it something else?
Mine, I have an app called SugarSync, and it puts all my files in the cloud, and I can access them, and it's not working properly right now, and it's pissing me off. That's like, so when I do want to get to something, I know it's not what you're going for.
Can we do some tech support right here?
Right now. Exactly.
I think for me, it's probably Slack. I don't know who here uses Slack, but it's an instant messaging tool basically for teams, businesses. And so it's simultaneously the best app in the world and the worst app in the world. And so it's constantly team members from across the country that we have are asking questions and posting ideas and trying to decide whether you should answer that question so that that person can keep rolling with the great work that they're doing, versus stepping back away from it for 2 hours so that you can focus on the big work that you have to do.
Or is
is a
that one of your
constant
team
challenge.
leaders could jump in and lead and not just jumping in, that kind of that balance.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, should I answer this quick in 5 seconds, or should I wait for
Yep.
the person who should answer it to do it 10 minutes from now?
And I think this came from Peter too originally, but I lost my thought. What was it? We were
Slack,
just talking
Peter.
about you can't answer every question. And so like we're getting to the point where at some point, like I'm kind of Midwest nice and I want to get back to people and I just value that a lot. But at some point, like lately, we've been inundated with so much, and it always has been, but it's getting worse and the questions are harder. Like I'm not one to just never reply to that nice person
Too
that
many
emailed
pings.
me.
Like
Yeah.
we are all too
And-
accessible now.
Yeah, and
And I'm
then if
working-
you're
yeah.
not, you're ignoring them or not, but at some point, like, you have your capacity, and something's going to fall off the table. So making the decision, what's not working for me is trying to make the choices of what to reply to, what to take action on, who to delegate that to, and just how to kind of get all of that flowing so that my business can keep going forward.
Yeah.
So.
And having to use multiple, like all the different messaging services that people are reaching out on. You got text, Facebook, email, phone, Instagram, Twitter, and like, I'm sure there's an aggregator. Is there an aggregator? Something
There are
like
some
that.
tools out there.
Okay.
Josh could probably tell you all about it.
Yeah.
Well, so I think the thing for me that has started to work a little bit better is having some parameters, like you're talking about here, is like some parameters around what is acceptable and what isn't for your communication with teams and then the external world. And so, like right now, what I'm feeling kind of more in flow about is, if that's the right phrase, it's just about how you structure your day, and then understanding that all of the dings, like Slack and all the other things we're talking about, is everybody else's priority for your day and their agenda, and whether you're going to let them set it for you or you're going to set your own agenda. And so, like, I love being able to, and it doesn't work every day, but being able to, like, wake up when you're planning on waking up, maybe even early and before all the noise, having a morning routine, and then having, what's really worked well for me is having this block of time where none of the noise comes in. and makes me sweaty just thinking about it, because it's like, man, what about these fires that are going to happen, or what about if somebody wants to get a hold of you, or what about a sale with a big vendor that you might miss out on? And it's like, well, if you can teach people how to communicate with you and that you're not always available, then it's funny, because when you don't jump in to answer the question, somebody else can answer it, right? Because like
Or they might solve the problem themselves.
might solve the problem themselves, right? So like we all feel like we're the smartest people in the world, and we're smart, but there are also plenty of other smart folks out there that are in the sphere that you're in that can also answer the question and handle it. And so having that blocked out time where it's like, I'm on airplane mode, and I'm not answering questions, and I'm not logged into Slack, and if it's a fire, then there's one way to get a hold of me and use it wisely. Otherwise, I'll get back to you in the afternoon or whatever that time period is. Just seems to allow you to, A, have creative time, like when you're disconnected from the monitor, but then also like not having all of the baggage that's associated with switching from creative to, oh, hold on, let me answer this text message. And I get back to my creative, and it's hard to get back into that flow.
I also been thinking about doing some training with our team on this, because if I'm having this problem, then the other 35 people are having this problem, and they're working under, my time and their time, and how could it make the whole organization more efficient if that was a company-wide training that most people probably don't do. So that would be a good goal area.
Yeah, I love that.
Could be as simple as, one very small thing that I do is I don't let my emails push or pull. I don't let them end up in my phone until I open the app to do that. But Michael Gerber wrote a book called The E-Myth. It's has anybody here heard of or read The E-Myth? Okay, Entrepreneurial Myth. And this was first time I read it was back in the late 1900s when we didn't have these things. And but what he did was he said, like, put on your office door, like, I'm working on the business right now, so I'll be available. I'm not available from 10 to 12 or whatever. And so I have adopted that and just put it in my calendar that there's sections that I'm not accessible, and I'm going to be working on certain things and really using the calendar so that you're in control of your day rather than just being a reactionary, tool for everybody else.
I love that you brought up the calendar, because I feel like when you do that, magic happens. Like stuff doesn't get scheduled in because it's there.
Right.
Or if you go
Yeah.
to schedule over it, you're making a conscious effort to say,
Yep.
this is more important than my blocked out time.
Yep.
And what's cool about you bringing up the Michael Gerber book, because that was in the mid-'80s or '90s when it came out, right? Is that this is not a new problem. Like tech has just exacerbated this issue.
Yeah.
Like it's been around forever. That's
a good point.
Right?
Yep.
That we're not really good at prioritizing our own business, right, or our own work. And so we've got 22 minutes. Or 21 minutes. We were going to allot 15 minutes of Q&A. So if you guys have questions, kind of be considering those. What's your tip? You guys have been in business a while, right? 2 to 20 years. What's your tip for, like, if you started over, right? Or if you're buying the business now, like you were saying, Steve, is, how would you do things differently than when you did in your early days?
Jeez,
Big question.
that is. If somebody else has an answer, let me think for a minute.
I would do everything over, I think. Okay, so I invented a case, and I thought it was the world's greatest makeup case, like life-changing for women in the way that they put on makeup. And I just really went into business thinking like every single person was going to buy that case, like, immediately. And so I really just thought, as long as I have a product that people really like, boom, I'm in business. And I realized very quickly that was not the case. And I am not an entrepreneur because I thought it would be easy, because I didn't sign up for it to be easy, and I don't want it to be easy, but I thought it was going to be a lot easier, right? So there's just been so much up and down, but I don't think people sign up for pain, right? But in those painful circumstances, I have learned so much. So to say, like, what would you do differently? I think just, I'm glad that I went into it really naive. And I think just looking back, I'm really appreciative of really painful situations. One I'll share with you, and this is just an honest thing. Like immediately we launched in Von Maur stores, and it was like 32 stores. we were just a few months in business, and after a year they called us and said to buy them all back because they hadn't sold the cases. And that's humiliating, and you feel like a failure. And so what would I have done differently? There's so many things in that. Like I would have done that whole situation different. But because of that situation, because of that pain, like I have a whole new model and a whole new way that I do business, and I would never, like, for lack of a better word, half-ass it. I would never like launch in a store and then just like let it ride and do something else. So what would I do differently? Everything and nothing.
I have something here. So with, I used to work at Active Endeavors, and then I was part owner in the Active Endeavors store in Des Moines. And Mark Weaver, who maybe some of you know, Iowa City people, he is the owner of Active Endeavors here. And he said to me when I started our first lip balm business, he's like, no matter what, like make sure you do stuff. Like what we tend to do is, take trips, spend money, do fun things, even when the times are bad. Because what happens is you can get in a rut of like, okay, when there's zero cash, you're not gonna do anything. And then when there is cash, you're going to save it for the times when there's zero cash, and then you end up living in this, cyclical hell of not really living your life and just you serving the business rather than the business serving you. And so, wise words. And then, so looking back, I really put a lot of emphasis on the top line growth, because I'm like, if we could sell more, we could do anything. And so everything I've ever done has always been top line. And I'm probably like the wealthiest broke person I've ever met, because everything's just always getting reinvested, and just like we keep doing more stuff, but we never really have any money. And so now we're focusing on the bottom line, and what we're finding out is that we can do more stuff. We have more options, more opportunities to do more. So looking back, I'd put some stronger emphasis on the bottom line, and I think I'd have stronger companies and probably have employed more people over the years, and probably been happier, and probably done more cool stuff.
Yeah,
You know?
and just for you to like dive a little bit deeper, so you say bottom line growth for everyone that's listening. You're saying focus more on what's happening after the sale. Would that be a good?
Yeah. I mean, but really just not just celebrating the sale and the top line success, but really, and just assuming that everything is going to work itself out, and we're profiting a little bit, so that's okay, or we lost money because but that's okay because we grew so much. Like last year, we grew 45% at Ecolips, 13-year-old business. It was great, but it was also the first year in 6 years that we lost money, and so had we found a little bit better balance with that growth. But yeah, it's basically, it's like what happens when you get into the expense category, and really setting, sales goals are fun and more fun to talk about and easier to set and more fun to celebrate. But putting the same amount of emphasis on the bottom line, on the profit, on the EBITDA, and ultimately you're building a stronger company that, no matter what you're going to do with your company, you're better off making more money. Yeah, make more money.
Yeah. And I don't mean to pick this apart, I think it's fascinating and super relevant to everyone in the audience. Is that like it's so easy to chase revenue because it's sexy, right? It's like it's awesome to say I've made this many million, or this is what our sales were for the year. But my mentor always said, he's like, but you can't buy groceries with that.
Right.
You buy groceries with cash.
That's right. That's right.
And so just to dive a little bit deeper into that, I want to know what your thoughts are. Like, why do we chase that? Is it because of like ego? Is it because of recognition?
Right.
Because really, the reason we start companies is to make money, to be able to pay ourselves and support ourselves and hire people, right? And you hire people with the latter, like you just talked about, is watching the bottom line. And so, what is it? Why is it, do you think, that we focus in on the former, right, which is just that top line?
Fundamentally, like you need sales to make money. So there's just like this survival mechanism in place that's like we need to sell more so that we can exist as a business. So you have to have some sales. But I have seen different CEOs. I mean, if they come from more of a financial background, they'll be focusing more on the bottom line. But really, you have to have sales to have success. So in that regard, it is more important, and we should focus on it. You can't just have the bottom line.
I think it's a lot more fun too. So, to make 20% more on the top end is fun. To cut 20% from the other end is hard.
Yeah.
A lot of hard decisions.
That's true.
So
That's a good point.
it's just more enjoyable. But I think for me, as far as doing things differently, I guess my personality lends itself to be worrying about the mistake I'm about to make as opposed to the one I probably made yesterday. And so I think, like, for us, for instance, it's a constant battle of deciding, do we take this opportunity to grow 10x, or do we, the original reason that we started the business was so that Jessica could stay home and work from home. And so it's this constant battle of, are we able to achieve the original goals of the organization while at the same time growing it to its full potential and what we think it deserves to be? And do those two conflict, and can we find a narrow passageway where they might not?
And back to that, I guess what I would have told myself back then is don't make a 5-year plan, don't make a 2-year plan, don't make a 10-year plan. Because I had a 5-year plan, and it was stay-at-home mom, work online during naps, and, within a year, it was all blown up. And now I'm taking my kids to daycare 4 days a week, And so I think that if you try to plan it, you'll never be able to envision, when you're an entrepreneur, where it could go or the great things that could happen. And then you just reinvent your plan and you rethink it without, losing your core values. And so being flexible, I guess, is the message.
Yeah. How do you balance those two things, though? Like, with being flexible, but then also staying true to, like, the true intent. Like, what is it for you guys? Like, is there a check where you're like, this is going against the reason we started the company? And then how do you make the decision on whether to charge forward in spite of that struggle? Does that make sense?
A
I
little
think
bit.
we have sort of like a core set of values that we've always had. We always said we have identical values and totally different approaches about how to reach that, end goal. And so it's having a sort of an agreed upon set of minimum standards that we're willing to meet, and then an agreed upon goal of where we'd like to be, and then everything else that happens around that is sort of just the noise that makes that up.
And ultimately, you have to ask yourself, what am I not willing to sacrifice? Because if you don't have those things, someone will try to impede upon them. And so mine, for example, was picking my kid up from school. I'm going to be the one to pick them up. Even if it means 1,000 other things have to happen outside of that, that's me. So, my team is there and I leave at 3 because that's pickup time. And that's hard. But it's also what I wasn't willing to sacrifice. And so keeping those things and not budging is, I think, difficult, but part of that balance.
Yeah. What I love about having those, like, non-negotiables is that it makes it easier to make decisions. So, like, in your example, it's like if something came in and it's like, this is a huge opportunity, but I'd have to be at my desk from 3 to 5, you'd say no. Right?
No, I just sent him.
Right?
Yeah.
There you go. Right?
No, but it's a clarity of thought to have.
Yeah.
To have these sort of lines in the sand, because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you have another example of this is you have endless opportunity. For instance, we deal with art teachers, and we just sell professional development and graduate classes. And so because we have this huge audience of art educators, we could, for example, sell a lot of paintbrushes if we wanted to. But that doesn't really fit within our mission. That really doesn't fit within our vision. It doesn't fit within our lines that we've drawn in the sand on all corners of the business. And so you have lines in the sand for your personal time. You have lines in the sand for the goals of your business. You have lines in the sand for how you use technology and how much of my life is it going to control, and how much time your kids spend with that technology. And so to have very clear lines in the sand is very freeing in a way, because it allows you a lot of opportunities within those parameters.
And the next level would be writing it down and saying, this is our, internal manifesto, external, just to put it into writing so you don't forget it, because it's in your head, but there's so much coming at you.
Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we could go work somewhere else and have other people make those lines for us. But that just sounds terrible.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think, like, you know, it's kind of further the point. I think that when you have those lines in the sand, you don't have this fear of missing out. Like I said, it's like the FOMO doesn't exist because you're like, no, I mean, that's a great opportunity, but it's going to be for somebody else because I'm not going to do it, right? But like if you had an opportunity and somebody said you had to eat steak, though, every day, you say, no, I'm not going to do it. All right? So do you have a non-negotiable? Nikki,
I'll
do you
take
have
that
non-negotiable? Do you guys, what's your non-negotiables?
For the business, it's petroleum. Like people are dying over petroleum, and we're not gonna, we don't touch it. So all of our competitors that manufacture lip balm use petroleum, and we don't. That's where we draw the line. For personal, anytime, my thing is as soon as I stop enjoying what I'm doing, I'm gone. I'll give it some time. We sold our first company in 2003 because I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. Been through a few phases with Ecolips where I started, not enjoying it and walking into work and not feeling good about it. And I left strategically just got my management people together and said, I got to take some time off. I don't know if it's going to be 2 weeks, 2 months, or maybe I'll never come back. That's it, So mine's about fulfillment. I don't ever want to have a regret, at all. And I think if you are doing something, outside of your comfort zone for your personal ethos, that's something you might regret in the future.
Do you have a mechanism to where you can check in with yourself to see, or is it just like a day-to-day thing?
I think, no, I don't. It's just stress, I think, and where's that stress coming from, and it's just kind of how I feel.
Got it.
Yeah.
Nikki?
I have non-negotiables in where I want to sell and stuff, but kind of piggybacking on an earlier question, I think really for me it's about experiencing joy. And when I started and you're reaching goals and you're making goals and you're kind of addicted to that high, like I got in another store and I'm meeting these goals, but what happens then is when you're tied to that emotionally, you also are tied to emotionally to the lows, right? And I started realizing I don't want to be an entrepreneur if this is what it feels like, because this is bad, right? I'm losing stores and stuff, and this stinks. And so what I started to do for myself in I really want this to work, but even if it doesn't, I'm going to try and experience joy in every single thing. And that has been working for me. That even when things are not going well, I'm joyful because I get to do this. Because I get to do the coolest thing ever. And I'm going to be joyful in that because that's a blessing to me. So I feel like it's a perspective thing, and
that's cool.
And trying to and I feel like I'm still having really bad. I'm still in the beginning of my company, kind of. So I'm still having really bad days, right? Like downfalls. But I'm not tied to that emotionally anymore because I feel like it's a perspective, and I'm not going to let myself go there. So that's kind of my line in the sand. I'm not going to get down about things that are going down, because there was an article released in Inc. magazine, and it was talking about entrepreneurs committing suicide, and that really struck me. Right? There's so many bad times and you're connected to that because it's your life. And I thought, gosh, that really haunted me, that article. So I wanted to change that after reading.
Yeah, real quick, because I know we got to do the Q&A. I was similar. I'm the most optimistic person in the world. I'm yeah, we can do this. But in 2003, we lost a big customer 3 years after we launched, and we were losing an insane amount of money every month, and I had no idea how we were going to get ourselves out of it. And I ended up hospitalized and bedridden for 6 months. And I was doing triathlons and the healthiest point of my life, but I couldn't. Whatever was happening in my subconscious got me. The stress level, whatever the hormones were being released, it laid me out. So after that, that's where I'm that's why want the company to be healthier and want to I mean, that's why sometimes I take time off, like extended periods, just to be like, get away, you guys got this. Let
Yeah.
me figure some stuff out, I'll be back.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we can get in the weeds, right? We're watching the
Right.
numbers too closely, like we mentioned in the beginning of the panel. So it's like take a step back and then to realize like life's good, right? Like we're watching the analytics way too damn closely,
Right.
right? Like don't be watching
Yep.
them every
It's
day.
like day trading.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, I wanted to open up
Q&A.
for questions. We were supposed to have 15 minutes. We have 4, and so we'll have time for a couple questions. Who wants to go?
So as you've gone into each,
Let me.
as you've gone into the different ventures you've gone into, what are the ways you approach identifying the expertise that you don't have that you then try to find from somewhere else? And what have those tended to be?
It's a good question.
You have a good answer to this.
I was just gonna say, the biggest thing is to be completely honest with yourself about what your strengths are. I think a lot of people that start businesses like to think of that they know it all. And I think it's, for me personally, being a generalist, somebody who's good at a lot of things, but not really great at anything, it's a great thing to have. It's a huge asset. But at the same time, partnering with people who have exactly the opposite skill set as you cannot be overestimated in the value of that. And so like Jessica, like I said, we have exact same values and goals perhaps, opposite skill sets, opposite perspectives, opposite approaches in many ways. And that's, I think, made us a really successful partnership. And I see that everywhere. You know, the Steve example is a very popular one. But working with people who have different skill sets, who want to work on different projects than you, because you're not going to want to work on all of them, is a huge asset.
Mine is just being 20 years into the business game. I leverage relationships and friendships, and I call people, ask them questions, and then hire them.
And you need to be able to share that vision with somebody and get somebody else excited about it that has that other skill set, and be able to, if they can see the vision, then they can apply their skill set to your project.
Yeah, I think for me, it's where it's the activities that make me feel a little ill, right? Like if somebody's like, "Oh yeah, you can just do this with Facebook ads," I'm like, ugh. I want to learn just enough. So I call Josh, and he gives me some tidbits, and I'm like, okay, I've got enough knowledge to be dangerous, and I can hire somebody else to do that because I don't want to do that. And so I think identifying the aspects of the business that make you just feel like, man, like just dread. So for me, that would be accounting also. And a lot of other things, actually. And so, just like Derek, I'm not really awesome at kind of anything. And so I think that's how you would identify those things. And I think that one thing I want to underscore is like having differing skill sets is huge, and I think a lot of people focus in on that. But if you don't have the same moral code, it's a disaster. It's happened to me, and a lot of other people that I know. It's like, yeah, we had differing skill sets, but you also had totally different foundational beliefs too. And so I think that those situations rarely work out.
Awesome. I think we better call it there. So if everybody can please join me in thanking the panel.